Hello, this is Alfons, and this is a video of me talking because I thought I will make a video of me talking instead of a video of me providing movement instructions or a movement session. I thought it would be more convenient and easy for me today to do something like this in the afternoon when I should have done the movement sequence. I was not in the mood. How is that possible? I was not in the mood, and so I missed the time with the good light, and now there's no good light, so I thought at least I will make a talk. And you already notice there's not so much editing going on. It's not a viral YouTube video that you are greeted with, very loud voice, and then one topic after the other, bam, 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 bam. So I just want to talk about two topics today, this evening in my, well, I would say maybe it's amusing, or it's not amusing maybe, but musing from muse. I'm thinking about something with all my heart and all what is available to me, exploration of topics. But not so much an exploration as it is a presentation in this format where you, my dear listener, are watching and me, I am talking. So let's get on with it. To dive into my first topic, the topic of trauma. I want to bring it up again. I can't leave my hands from it. The topic of trauma. And as an example, I wanted to do a video in the afternoon, but I couldn't. And now I'm doing a video. So very proud of myself. But I often think maybe I should get a studio. I should open a studio, or at least rent an office or a room where I can set up lighting and a mount on the ceiling, so I can have an overhead camera, and I can conveniently, even in the evening hours, here in Vietnam it gets dark at 5-6 o'clock, so I'm missing my productive hours actually in the evening to make a movement, to present a movement sequence, or maybe even to explore a movement sequence in front of your eyes and heart, of course. But and also an assistant would be nice, somebody to help me with the videos and the editing, but not so much an assistant. I think I'm not ready for an assistant. I want to have an apprentice, even worse, an apprentice, someone who can learn my craft and then eventually, hopefully, outgrow me in my skills. But why I'm not doing this? But this important step, of course, as a YouTuber, I should do more videos, but I don't see myself as a YouTuber. Actually, I'm more a teacher of somatic education, for the lack of better terms, but maybe that's where I am, somatic education, and where you could put Moshé Feldenkrais, for example. I don't know Selver or Elsa Gindler, if you would put them there, but there have been so many pioneers in this profession of teaching, and still we are so far ahead with our thinking of the mainstream, so we're still very niche. So why don't I open a studio? And I can't bring myself to it. And why? Because I have been a software engineer previously. You might know, software engineer writes software, very different from a teacher of somatic education. I know, but at that time, this was very interesting to me. When I grew up, there was the first computers, the first tiny home computers, and I was getting interested because I was new in this world, something that didn't exist before, a true fruit of the humans, the electronic realm, the electronic devices. So I wanted to learn that and how to program those things, and little did I know it became my profession, and I worked in that field for over 10 years. Luckily I could show up at 9 a.m. in the offices I worked for, but then I finished at 9 p.m. or 10, 11 p.m. or maybe I did an all-nighter almost, not so often, but every day to work 14 hours in front of the computer, it did grind me down. And to the point where I could say, you would say, a nervous breakdown, where I felt so uncomfortable with what I did to myself, with this kind of non-existent worth ethics, that it really took a toll on me in terms of workload, just the sheer amount of focus and concentration you have to present or give to your work every day. Another term, burnout, isn't it? That's a word coined by a psychologist, if I recall right, Freudenberger in New York, a psychologist in New York. He felt something he could not put in words, and later he put it in words, and the word was burnout. There's, I think, his book. And after that, he didn't feel the burnout anymore. It seems like because he became so famous and so influential, like he put a word in this planet, into the human community of, well, yes, burnout. Interesting word, and very interesting word, burnout, because burnout comes from, I think, from the vehicle motorsport. In my mind, I have a picture of a racing bike, and they would engage the brakes and then drive circles, and there would be smoke, and the tire would be worn down, and it's a lot of fun, and that's the burnout. And so I think there's two types of burnout, distinctively two types of burnout. In one type of burnout, you're the driver, so you have fun ruining your gear and making it smoke, and all the things that happen, and the attention and the rush that comes with it, until you can't go further anymore. So in one type of burnout, you're the driver, but in the other type of burnout, you're the wheel. You are the one who gets worn down, and maybe there's a refitting of the wheel at some point, but you will never be the same again. And that's what happened to me. Even in my burnout, I'm the wheel. I'm a wheel. I burned myself down, and I recovered to some degrees, but not enough to be in a mind of renting an office and starting a commitment like this on a daily basis. For example, making videos, because of course I'm working every day, but I'm free as a bird. I can work here in this room, I can work in a coffee shop, I can work in another city. I'm free to go wherever I want, and I need my computer, I need my clients, of course, and I'm free. But if I rent an office, that's the end of it. Then I have to, and then all these old feelings will come up again of being stuck in an office. So this kind of trauma, it never left me, even me as a professional. That's all I do, is through movement I go into the human soul, not just in resolving physically pain-related issues, but into the human soul. So shortly I will come to my second topic, but let me finish the I have friends, like I have a friend who is a famous designer, and he designed some of the maybe most famous nightclubs in this world. And in this position, he also burned himself out. He designed furniture for large furniture companies and nightclubs, and he did all this, and I think he worked like probably 20 hours a day, but with all the fame and money and all the host of temptations that came with it. But his type of burnout is the type of the driver. And then when he could not go further anymore, he went to Thailand to a 3-week retreat where he would meet famous football players or famous business people who are also on their path to recovery. But their recovery is different because they were drivers, and they will just restart their career. So as my friend did, he will just restart it, keep designing, but maybe he wants to start a restaurant, he may have his own restaurant, or he has projects, he has no problem in going strong again. Like, I think this Freudenberger who coined the word burnout. But for most of us, it's not like this. We are the wheel. We burn down and then we need a refitting, and we're not the same anymore. We have to roll differently from then on. Not worse, but we cannot do the same thing again as we did before. We need to find different ways. So I think that's an interesting thought, the types of burnout, the driver and the wheel. Don't you have the same impression? And there's different musings to it. The second thing, what do I want to talk about, is how we look at things. So this is something I wrote in my blog, so I have an easier time writing than I have speaking. I hope you're still with me in my musings. So I write on my blog, of course, and I wrote about it, and I also presented this thought in one of my workshops just recently, online workshops, not available in English. This one was in Chinese language. So I didn't announce it here, or I didn't record it for your viewing. So with a translation into Chinese in China, online of course. And yes. So my example, how to look at things. Because my example was about a meal. Because there's so many different cuisines in China. And you could look at the meal from different perspective, or with different heads on. When we take the example of the thinking heads from Edward de Bono, or the action shoes, same author, very successful with his books. And he also says we can look at problems, or of course his realm is the business, but if you take a food, a bowl of spaghetti, we can look at it from a person who is hungry and who just wants to eat a good meal, but we can wear different clothes. We can wear the clothes of a nutritionist who is interested what kind of micronutrients are in that meal. Is it more carbs? Is it more protein? How many vitamins? What's left after cooking of the micronutrients and the macronutrients? How do they mix together? How many chemicals are in a meal? So that would be the perspective of a nutritionist on the same meal, and a very different perspective it is from a person who is hungry, or a very different perspective from a cook, isn't it? Somebody who wants to make this meal, as we have so many splendid YouTube channels now. Before we only had cookbooks, but now we actually see the best of the best cooking their meals, and we can look at that and say, maybe I can do a good version of spaghetti myself. And what do I have to do? Which sauce? Which tomatoes do I have to buy? Which spaghetti? Or do I make the spaghetti myself? The pasta? So we have the clothes of a cook. But that's not so interesting to me. Just as an example. And I want to talk about movement. There's different ways to look at movement, and of course when I'm talking, I'm not talking about fitness and stretching and yoga, but I'm talking about these kind of movement sequences you find on my YouTube channel. And many people seek me for resolving their chronic pain issues. So they look at my movement sequence from the point of a patient. So they want to know, is this something that can help their knee pain or their back pain, or some area in the back that they have been to so many different therapies already, but nobody seems to be able to touch that. And maybe Alfons has a lesson for that, a movement sequence that can give them relief. So that's the close of a patient. But how many other views are there? And I would say there's like a dozen at least. So I could look I look at the movement sequences as a teacher. How do I teach a movement sequence so that a patient can have the most benefit, so they have an easy time? And you see that on my YouTube channel. How do I need to teach on YouTube so that people can get into my videos and see, okay, I will try that, and then they can follow it without me losing them as a viewer, and then when they finish the sequence they will have the benefit. But there's so many more ways to look at it. We can look at the same movement at the very same bowl of spaghetti. We can look at the very same movement sequence from the viewpoint, with the clothes on of a psychologist, and say, how does this affect the soul of a person, his feeling, his ability to face the world and to act in this world. So that's funny, because I was talking about trauma and my own experience before, but here I am, and I think I'm not doing so bad. I'm still making a living, and I'm content with what I have. I'm very content with the people who are in my life. I'm very grateful for the people who are in my life, my clients, or my patrons who support me and who value my work to a point that they support me. So how amazing is that? And I feel much happier and fulfilled than I was before. Totally different kind of life. So from a psychological perspective, but what else? Maybe from a philosophical perspective. What is movement? What is real? The philosophers are interested in the meaning of a movement, and there's a lot to be said about that as well. And I think there can be a whole lot of different viewpoints, and that's what I enjoy so much about this kind of movement sequence, that they're not just about pain or strengthening or flexibility, but we can look at it from many different viewpoints. From a business perspective, as I already mentioned, how can I make money with something most people have never seen in their life before, this kind of moving. What else? No, that was all I wanted to talk about today, the two types of burnout, and many ways to look at one and the same movement sequence. How do you look at movement sequences? From which perspective? Or would you add anything to that? So is there something I should upload? Is there something worth sharing? I leave that up to you. Thank you for watching, for your likes and your comments and your sharing of this video if you think it's worth sharing to someone. I don't know. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video, which should be a movement sequence.